Right, so moving swiftly on, we're now going to welcome back our keynote speaker today, Charlie Vayas, digital transformation expert at KFC Group. Welcome back, Charlie. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
Hey, everyone again.
Good. So thank you for your keynote, Charlie. That was great. I can see that everyone enjoyed it in the comments. I'll leave this next session with you to talk about entertainment trends in the pandemic.
Thanks, Mitch. So we have today an amazing panel of different people and different industries. And so the main concept I want you to get out of this is what are the trends per industry that we're seeing right now? And how do we think and how do we feel that the world's going to move on? Pretty much piggybacking on the concept of predicting the future. So I'll introduce our panel. First, we have Luisa Muneratti. She is the SVP at Docomo Digital, and she has a great telco experience, 13 plus years. So she's going to be pretty much the one that knows more about the telco in the panel. And I'll give an introduction to each one later also. Gregory Avelino, he's our marketing manager at Napster. So he comes from the musical streaming services. And Edgar Lomeli, he's the Mexico country manager at Digital Virgo. And he comes from the video streaming services. So we have a telco person, we have music, we have video. And at the end, we have, last but not least, Tom Cohen. He comes from AWG. He is the commercial director. And he has a lot of experience on the DBC world, direct billing to carriers. And he's going to talk a bit about what Paramount is doing and the experience that he has. So a warm welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here. So let's start with you, Luisa.
Thank you,
so
Charlie.
No worries. The mechanics are going to be, each one of you is going to have about 7 to 6 minutes to talk about the 3 top trends that you see in the industry. At the end, we're going to have a short discussion, see which trends are similar between industries, which ones are definitely different, and have a couple of keystrokes to wrap up. So Luisa, Luisa has been in the telecommunication industry for 13 years. Her main focus has been on value-added services on VASs. But now she's moving as the industry to SaaS services, mainly focused on data career billing. Just as Tom, she has done an amazing job connecting Amazon, OTTs, Google Play, and I can keep on going. So welcome, Lisa, and nice to have you here.
Thank you, Charlie. In fact, it's a pleasure to participate on this panel at this moment. We in fact saw a lot of different movements in the industry, not only related to the direct carrier billing, but also how the digital payments influences on our behaviors, especially during the pandemic. We all had to adapt into different payment methods or the dynamics, how we used to interact with other people, or as well buying physical digital stuff. So we saw a huge difference, a huge improvement from last year to this year, how the digital payments evolved, and also how direct carrier billing became such an important asset from all the telcos to give like a bigger importance or playing against the competition and become relevant to the end users. As we saw in the last years, when we started, I started like 13 years ago, the value-added services were still like a marginal services on the telco side, and it had a natural shift to the real OTT value. So that's why we started to engage and build the platforms that supports the tier 1 and tier 2 OTTs, such as Google Play, as Amazon, Samsung Store, and Huawei stores, and many other merchants. And especially during the pandemic, we saw a huge increase on gaming and streaming, basically. And this is where we see the telcos are now investing more time to become really OTT's centralized strategy. This is not only about commodities as data and voice, but this is also about content. So this is the top feelings that we have that we want to discuss in this panel, and how the trends on the music and the gaming are changing on after the pandemic, and how the population is interacting nowadays with those OTTs. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Luisa, and right on time. On one of our previous discussions, you mentioned that one of the barriers was for DCB was the low penetration of credit cards and the bad debt that people in Latam have. Would you mind explaining these a little bit more, going a little bit more in depth?
Yeah, in fact, although the penetration for credit card is growing step by step in the last few years, still we do have a huge gap in the region for the postpaid penetration and also the credit card. So what to do with this situation? So this is exactly when we started to see how important the direct carrier billing can be into those countries where we don't have so many options. What we saw is on one side, we saw a lot of interest on the OTTs to engage with this kind of payment method. So we do have a great examples on the marketplaces, but also on the tier 1 OTTs, such as Garena, Razer, Tinder, many other applications. However, there is still a barrier on the penetration for direct carrier billing on those telcos. So the eligibility for those users to purchase through direct carrier billing. Why? Because of the bad debits for those postpaids. Still, the prepaid is the big part. There are some limitations depending the country, like in Mexico, because of the higher cost on the reselling, as they say, because this is a prepaid. The telco has some other costs to keep the prepaid top-ups. So when we look into the postpaid, there is still the issue on the bad debt. And there are a lot of different initiatives on the telco side, on some other players to provide some tools to mitigate, to reduce the risk on bad debits. There are a lot of different solutions for that. Some of them are already working, but it's still, as most of the solutions are machine learning based, it requires time to keep working, to refine the information that those machines are receiving. So then the kind of mitigation will come into at some certain point. Let's say, I believe that next year things will be much more evolved in the region, and you're going to be able to provide the right service to that right client, and reducing the risk of bad debits. So this is the feeling that we still have for the region.
So it seems to be a bit of a trade-off, right?
Yes, correct. In fact, it's evolving, but this is still a challenge. And as we see a lot of companies doing amazing jobs on different solutions, I believe that for sure we are going to have a big improvement in the coming months for that.
Great, Lisa. Thanks a lot. I have one last question for you. What would be if you could give us a trend, or what would be your insight for the evolution of alternative payment methods in the region for the upcoming, 3-5 years, maybe?
Sure. Yeah. When we talk about alternative payment methods, not only about direct carrier billing. Direct carrier billing is one of them. We saw a huge growth of other payment methods, like mainly the digital wallets. So in Brazil, it was an explosion of digital wallets. The same in Mexico, the same in Colombia, and in fact, those alternative payment methods, they started last year mainly to stay. We saw a shift on the behavior, how people interact. There are a lot of promotions to engage with those clients to keep using the wallets and so I feel that still the major growth for the next year will be the digital wallets and the direct carrier billing. Although we see there are a lot of potential to grow, this is still more bureaucratic payment method because it is more complex on the telco side. So the growth, it's still like it's not exponential. It's still more linear across the year. So I feel that digital wallets will be the next big thing to grow in the coming years.
That's very interesting, Luisa, because what we've seen from my end of the industry is that the digital wallet market right now, it's quite fragmented. There are tons of players in each country, and it has to start consolidating somehow, because otherwise, if it's just fragmented as it's now, it's going to be a slow burn. But great, thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Charlie.
Moving on and going on with, I'm going to shift things a little bit. We're going to go now with Tom Cohen. I love Tom's.
Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Tom, what up? I really like Tom's journey because even though he's now in AWG as a commercial director, he has been part of the mobile ecosystem since 2004. So he has a lot of knowledge of how the telecom industry works and how the ecosystem works. And given that Tom has also developed in Latin America the largest DBC network, and he continues to construct policies and guidelines that match the region, I'm quite curious with you, Tom. Piggybacking on what Luisa said, how do you feel about digital wallets? How do you see them being an important player in the ecosystem? And also, go ahead and give us your 3 trends of how you see the industries moving on.
Okay. Well, hi to everyone. Hey, guys. Actually, I agree pretty much with most of what Luisa said, and I think the digital wallets have experienced a massive growth, as she mentioned, in Brazil, in Mexico, as well as Argentina, Uruguay, and many countries. We have recently seen Walla, for example, which is an Argentinian-based wallet who's been listed, and there's a lot of movement in that ecosystem. I think that both the wallets and the pandemic have hit in a moment in which they matched perfectly. People were locked down and they needed to adopt digital payment forms to consume, to be able to acquire things. And as she says, as Lisa mentioned, sometimes courier billing is a little bit more slow to be able to be deployed. But I think that digital wallets are basically helping us as an industry as a whole to allow people that were formerly outside of the possibility of consuming through digital means, both because of the informal economies that sometimes we manage in Latin America. We see this not only in the prepaid, postpaid relationship in the markets. You will notice that most of Latin America is still prepaid-based market, or it's very significant in comparison to most of the other regions in more evolved or less emerging markets. But basically, the other thing is that these wallets who have done massive investments in communication and means to educate people about this, they have adopted older and elder adopters, how we like to call them, into these ecosystem. Because one of the things that the pandemic and last couple of years have happened is that a lot of people that were, very much outside of the possibility of consuming through e-commerce or even content through for streaming, OTTs, SVODs, whatever, they were very far away from the possibility, at least from their perception, of actually being able to consume properly. And today, I think many of the actions and the promotions and all the efforts that many of the wallets have made in the last year have allowed those people to get into the ecosystem as well and become potential clients for most of ourselves and clients that we represent, and sometimes like Tinder's, like Paramount, like Netflix, Spotify, Deezer, or others. That's the first part of your question. In terms of what we see as a trend, I think that in part content in general. So today we are mainly focused into being able to provide access for content in general and entertainment. Being that the vertical that we are most focused on, I would say that there's changes in both the end users itself and the distributors, as we mentioned them. So we define operators or mobile operators as distributors. And I think that they are noticing the impact and the relevance of having premium offers and diverse offers to diverse audiences. They're starting to build different plans and different offerings in terms of data plans, content bundles with data plans and stuff like that to smaller and more niche audience, because they're really seeing the value that these contents are bringing in terms of churn reduction, in terms of NPS, in several aspects of their relationship with their customers. So in terms of our distributors, which are the ones we are relating on a B2B level, we see a lot of activity in the past year. And I would say in most of the places where we work, from Venezuela, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Brazil, Mexico, all over, there's a lot of movement in that sense. And consumers, the end consumers, they became more demanding because they were used to getting offers or the possibility of clicking and purchasing different kinds of services in the last years. And now the services that are not tier one, that are not having a good user experience, that are not being able to load in time and place as they should be, they're having dropouts in terms of people leaving those services, moving towards better quality and more evolved products in general. So I think that basically the barriers to enter our industry are starting to grow, which is always a good sign that evolution is, keeps on happening in our activity. And that basically makes us all work harder. It makes us work harder in many senses. We have the responsibility to, take care of the industry. We have the responsibility of being, producing solutions, enabling contents, and offering services to people, because today it's what they're requiring in multi-level, in many countries, in many languages, in currencies. Today we have the responsibility to adapt all of that offering and being able to democratize it in some way.
Thanks, Tom. Really insightful. I have one question of what you mentioned, and it's kind of resonating to me right now. If we talk about subscription, video on demand, SVODs, what do you think is going to be the main driver for an incremental amount of consumption right now? Because again, with what Luisa said and what you mentioned regarding payment methods and telco companies starting slowly but surely to understand this new dynamic, what would you do to drive consumption?
So I think today there's going to be my perspective to what's going to happen. There's going to be a bit more aggressive offering, I think, in the months to come. It has happened before in the music industry, very much, with Spotify, with Deezer, with Napster. I mean, Gregory probably can give us a lot of information about this, but in the music industry, and music usually runs a little bit ahead of other content verticals. I think that with video today, that is still something waiting to happen. And one of the things is that today we're starting to see that a lot of new players, or more, I wouldn't say niche because they're not niche, they're pretty big, but we have plenty of OTT providers today, which are still tier one with diverse catalogs, with very exclusive offerings and stuff. So I think that segmentation in terms of the offering is going to be critical, so that operators are able to identify which audience is interested in which kind of content and doing a targeted advertising or promotion for those services. That is going to potentially match interest of a user with a content which is relevant for them, and that is going to drive consumption higher, at least from what we believe.
Thanks a lot, Tom. It sounds like there's a lot of data involved here. And I agree completely. Matching customers and understanding their needs is the next phase. Something
It's the
that was a bit of a
mystery, I guess.
cliffhanger. Yeah, exactly, absolutely. Something was a bit of a cliffhanger on the keynote speech that I just gave before is that, and tying up to it, if you see our problems right now, matching consumers to the offering, again, it's a mystery because there's so much data about it, and as markets start becoming a niche, that's the normal trend. We need more data to understand what offering we can give to our clients, and I think that's one of the things that telcos need most help on. Their market was so massive before that there wasn't much need to understand customers as a niche. Now there is, and thus all the adding services that we're talking about. Thanks a
What
lot,
you're
Tom.
saying is completely right, and it's not that it's too much. It's completely flooded with information, being that every interaction is recorded. So it's difficult to go through that. But I think that's the way we have to go. Thanks for the time.
Thanks again. Cheers. Moving on, let's go with Edgar. As I previously mentioned, Edgar Lomeli, he is the Mexico country manager at Digital Virgo, and he has also been around the mobile business for more than 15 years. And that's great because that means that the experience that Edgar has can help us understand a little bit more of where the market and the segments are going. Edgar also started on the Vayas side of things as Luisa, and he has slowly moved to creating and launching streaming services. One of the main things that Edgar did was launching streaming and services for the London Olympics. Remember, that was a world has gone, but it's very important because when you're launching a service in an industry or in a new niche, the deep understanding you need of the industry is what's going to make you either fail or succeed. And clearly, Edgar has succeeded. So Edgar, talk to us a little bit about what you've done with Paramount Plus and how you see the direct care billing platform moving on to the future.
Yes, hello, good morning and afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the presentation, Charlie. Yes, obviously the all points of view of the team in this moment is correct. Yeah, we don't have a correct way because this in this moment the technology, the VAS, the OTTs increase in accelerate way. Obviously, in the complicated pandemic, in this moment, accelerate the evolution. In my opinion, is a mobile digital revolution. And Tomas say about this, no? New music and new video streaming platforms, new games. Now the boom of the esports and the OTTs. I think this situation gives us a business opportunity to everything, to developers, to integrators, carriers, MBOs, content provider, everything. And maybe for me the best or the principal platform increase in this moment is the video streaming platform. For example, only in Latin America, there were 62 million subscribers in streaming video platforms in the last year, almost around the 36% versus the 2019. These roles have allowed reinvent ourselves to respond in agile and faster way to these new digital demands in the old markets, which we find ourselves. And obviously, the digital demands that this pandemic brought us is the evolution and demand the different pay methods. Luisa say about this point, but the users need security in their digital purchase, and carrier billing is the direct carrier billing is achieving to gain trust for its security in the users in the Latin market. Now is the time to work and create a different speech with the partners. Is the time to work with the carriers to get a different business condition, because this is a very different. This is a not pass. This is a devolution of the digital. This is the OTTs. This is a premium merchants. Yeah. And obviously, the one problem in Latin America is the unlimited plans in the offer, the carrier offer in the different countries. For example, this type of unlimited is the user have unlimited voice and unlimited message, but limit data. This type of offer in the Latin America, the experience we have in other countries has allowed us to establish different conversation with the carrier and generating a different revenue shares, always considering the acquisition cost to the prepaid and postpaid. This is a new challenge for us. Maybe this is I hope response and I share the situation, and obviously this opportunity opened the doors to create a big deal with Paramount Plus, and today Digital Virgo close agreement for a carrier billing for Viacom CBS, and I will integrate Paramount Plus in a and direct carrier billing in the region. This is a trend. This is a trend. This is a new trend. It's a new business, and obviously I forget the classic games. I should remember the snake games, the downlink image and ringtones, the first multimedia message. This is the past.
That sounds so long ago, right? I remember downloading ringtones. Thanks, Edgar. And I have just one big question for you. How would you go? I mean, given that direct billing to consumers is the way to go, and that in South America we have an enormous amount of prepaid customers, how would you go about trying to get those two to coexist? Because at this moment it seems to be a dichotomy, right?
Please, can you repeat again, because I don't understand. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Clearly, direct to consumers billing is the way to go, right? But then again, you also have streaming services that the more subscribers you get, the better. How do you marry these two? Because if you have so many prepaid clients in South America, it's hard to do a direct to billing to them, right?
Yeah, it's very complicated, the market, but maybe it's time to think in out of box. For example, I don't know, but it's maybe the time to create a bundles OTTs with the carriers. Maybe Luisa say about this point. The product is not for all users today. We have a more selective users, and maybe this is one opportunity to create a new business model, or create the way to increase the sales of the OTTs or the different. I don't know, that really it's complicated in this moment, but maybe
it's not an easy question. I know.
The answer about this is generating different revenue shares. Maybe this is a point, but it's complicated, because in Latin America the mind of the carriers is not I don't remember the say, it's not actualizada, sorry, updated.
Up to date.
Updated, yeah, sorry.
Yes.
My mind in Mexico. Sorry. Yeah, in this moment, the mind of the carriers is not updating about these new models. But Luisa and me and over in this whole panel work every day to obtain this way in the director career really.
A true warrior. Thanks a lot, Edgar. Cheers.
Thank you.
Last but not least, we have Gregory Avelino, and thanks for being here, Gregory. Gregory
Thank
is
you for
the
inviting me.
marketing manager at Napster, and I'm pretty psyched to hear about what Gregory has to bring to the conversation because we've seen video, we've seen the broader scheme of things, and now we're going to music. Gregory
Yeah.
started his career in technology, which is amazing because then he shifted. He shifted and migrated to marketing and advertising. So Gregory has both sides of the coin, the technical side and also the business and marketing side of things. He has served as a creative director and digital content creative manager for many years. Thus, the development of his marketing and advertisement side. And he has done brand activations, and I can just name a ton here, but it's the NBA in Brazil, Adidas, Reebok, Sky. Again, I can keep on going. Um, Gregory joined Napster in 2020, so that was right when the pandemic started, and he's
Yeah.
responsible for managing the team's planning and coordination activities of marketing. So, Gregory, with everything that we've talked about right now, give us a little bit clearer or spectrum of what are the trends in your industry and how do these. I'm quite interested in video and how do these are either similar or dissonant with what we heard before that Tom mentioned.
Yeah. Well, all the discussion that we had so far here is really great, and it fits to the scenario that we're in audio streaming services. Just to give you a quick context, Latin America was the fastest growing region in revenue in the music industry last year, mainly due to the mass adoption of streaming services. Um, that saw this big increase in the subscription rate. Just to give you an idea, the Latin music's revenue growth, it has outpaced the overall U.S. music market growth, just as an example. So numbers really, when we let a market itself, but when we look to the music being consumed worldwide, Latin music is getting bigger and bigger every time. On a cultural point of view, this may have to do with the mainstream acceptance of Latin and the bigger crossover hits such as Despacito, which I'm sure you remember, just to name one. But going back to what's important here, yes, there's all that we were talking about. We have this growth on mobile penetration in the region, and also the low penetration of credit cards and even access to bank accounts really, and all of that indicates that for us as well, the carrier billing and digital wallets would be a huge plus to most of our potential consumers. So yeah, Latin America is, in my opinion, really promising, and we have major business opportunities despite of the complicated business environment that we have, which require all of us to adapt our go-to-market strategies to succeed around here. And just to put one more thing in the discussion, um, I'll be talking about Brazil specifically now. Brazil has risen to number one in digital piracy, and actually the other countries in Latin America are not really far behind, but for us, competing against free music is a real challenge, especially when it comes, you know, uh, when we see that the relatively to the median income of country like the U.S., an example, the premium subscription of a service could be 4 times as expensive for those countries. So on top of the payment methods and all of that, different tiers of services are really important, and more accessible plans, maybe free ad-based plans, which with it is a little easier for us in the music streaming services to pull off. And then moving on to higher tiers that can include, ad-free options and even high fidelity audio, things like that. But all of that in order to give the customers options so they can subscribe to a service really instead of going and consuming it online on pirates, right? So yeah, that would be my overview. People are migrating and adopting these streaming services more and more each day, and the pandemic has accelerated it a lot in Latam, which is great. But the real challenge for us is how to keep it going.
Thanks a lot, Gregory. And very interesting what you mentioned. I actually have two questions for you.
Sure.
One of them, do people still connect to Napster brand name as P2P as they did early days, or what's your take today? And
Yeah,
the second question, because I think it goes right along with the first one, is that a staggering fact that you mentioned before was how many or the percentage of increase in adoption of streaming services and subscription rates, which is 30% in Latin America. That's crazy. Do you see this trend keeping up in the future, or do you see it slowing down anytime soon?
about the brand.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if you guys heard, but Napster was acquired last year by a company called Melody VR. And one of the intentions that we have is to, bring the cat back. We have all this history with our brand, and people can surely connect to it. But over the last few years, Napster was more focused on the B2B side of things. So we were developing platforms for people for companies that didn't have a platform. So basically white label platforms. And so Napster was kind of, people couldn't see us really, and which is a shame because it's such a powerful and such a meaningful with all this history brand. So yeah, that's basically it. So I'm hoping that people can start to relate to Napster a bit more this next year when we're trying to, as I said, bring the cat back. And what was the other question? I'm sorry. I think I.
Yeah, no worries. You mentioned the staggering fact of how subscription rates are increasing in Latin America, have increased in the last year, which is about 30%. I was wondering if you see this trend keeping up in the future, or if you see it slowing down anytime soon.
Oh no, I think it will slow down at least a little bit in the future, but we will continue to grow. So the technology is here and it's here to stay, and people are talking about it and seeing all the benefits of having a streaming service, having the subscription to a streaming service. So it's up to us really to make this, keep going.
Great. Thanks a lot, Gregory.
All right.
Cheers. Thanks everyone in the panel, and I have a broad question. Whoever wants to answer it, please just go ahead. And it's about RCS. We heard before about RCS and the big opportunity it has in the market. I was wondering if any of you perceive it as an engagement channel, or how do you see RCS having a broad representation in any of your markets? Not all at the same time.
We
Well,
were
I
leaving
can-
Luisa go first.
Yeah, okay. Well, basically, the RCS, although it's been for a while, it's being already used by many companies to target their audience. We saw some results in the early this year, especially after pandemic, that it was being very well used by big brands. There are still a lot to grow, a lot of different initiatives in terms of how better the messaging can impact the end users. But still, the growth after for that it was impressive in 2020. I was even reading the report that was released by GSMA about the results, and although we see the growth, this is still far behind from the other regions. But as I said, since this started to get traction in the last 2 or 3 years, I see still a lot of growth for that.
I agree.
Great.
I agree
Thanks,
with
Luisa.
Luisa.
And Tommy had something else to add as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that there's 2 ways to approach the RCS concept itself. I think that it's a very different relationship between the users when it's a pull relationship, when the users initiate the relationship through RCS, than when it's inbound towards them. I think that the relationship today, when users start to validate or they use RCS to communicate, when they start the relationship, it has grown massively. I still think that there's a lot of growth to be made on the other side, using RCS as a push method to start promoting actively to targeted bases and to start working on a way in which we can actually deliver relevant information, content, or promotions, or material to our audiences through that channel. That is something which is still, I think, a little bit to be explored.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Sure.
Yeah, and sorry, sorry.
Go ahead, Edgar.
Okay, but for me and my opinion, is a complement for the mobile marketing, yeah, and obviously help us to increase the communication to the users. But remember, in Latin America, the principal offer in the carriers is unlimited voice and SMS, but limited in a data. Maybe it's a stopper to create a right way to create a communication for the different users. Maybe for me, it's only a way for a mobile marketing solution.
Yeah. For me, I'm really in the same page as Edgar and as everyone else. Really don't have much to add. I think it's all been said.
Thanks a lot, guys. The insight that I can give you from my industry, being service restaurants, QSRs, is that whenever we do direct consumer marketing and engagement, SMS, it's a good tool. RCS as well. We've seen our digital equity just skyrocket. But it's amazing how people want to connect with brands directly, and they've never had that chance before. So when you give our clients a way to talk to us directly, not massively, their engagement is enormous, and the equity just skyrockets. So yeah, I agree with all of you guys. So thanks everyone for the panel. It's been extremely insightful. I think that the main takeaway is that direct-to-consumer billing is here to stay. RCS and similar channels are here to stay as well, mainly because the driving force they have to connect brands with clients. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about video, we're talking about telecom or music. The clients are becoming more niche, and also they require better and more direct, I don't know if the right word is targeting, but definitely engagement. So anyway, thanks a lot to everyone. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Charlie.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Everyone for
Ciao.
the panel.
Bye, guys. A pleasure being here with you guys. Bye, Charlie.